Design inspiration, real life makeovers, and the latest in pop culture. This is the Uploft Interior Design Podcast with Betsy Helmuth.
Hello. Wow. June is Juning. For those of you on the East Coast, perhaps you're like me where we still have school for 3 more weeks. That means that all the concerts, all the finals, everything's happening right now. For those of you watching on YouTube, you know that I'm in my onesie because my son's 2.5 hour combined chorus and band and orchestra concert was interminable, delightful, and interminable. So yeah, got home just before 11, ate a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles for dinner, and I'm here with you now before I leave tomorrow morning for my 25th college reunion in Minnesota. Wowie wow. Have I packed? No. In fact, I was getting a mammogram today, and the lady was just talking to me, and I mentioned that I'm heading to my reunion. She's like, "Oh, what are you gonna wear?" I was like, I actually have no idea. So luckily I'd gotten to the mammogram early and I got out early and I went right to TJ Maxx. I impulse bought $167 worth of items, 90% of which I'll probably return, and one of which I hope to wear and feel good about myself. Because yes, I could wear any number of things in my closet, but none of them feel inspiring or right. And I had not even given a thought to what I was going to wear. To top it all off, this week has been a doozy, but I woke up on Tuesday morning with a huge stye in my eye. Like, I was like, what is that? And not only am I attending the reunion, I'm emceeing the big dinner. So I'm like giving speeches and standing up there and introducing people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot have a stye. Well, luckily, this is just a TMI episode, guys. This is just me, like, whatever. Luckily, I had a visit to the dermatologist because I was getting like a mole check, the once a year full body mole, whatever, melanoma check. And while I was there, I said, you know what? I've got this pesky stye. I don't even know why I brought it up. And he was like, well, if you call your eye doctor, they can just lance it. I was like, what? I mean, with every other stye, and maybe I get one every other year, but I just wait it out. And it's there for like a week and it's annoying. And, your eye gets all red and swollen. And every time you blink, it feels like you've got sand in there. Anyway, I called the eye doctor. They fit me in same day. They took a needle, poked it right towards my eye. I didn't feel a thing. And it immediately went away. I mean, it's still a little achy and I still have to do some drops and stuff like that, but you cannot see it. Oh my gosh. Am I ready for my reunion or what? Well, in order to get ready to take 4 days off, I had to really cram. So that's what I've been doing. I have been cramming in all the work. And so, what I thought could be fun for today is to do a little interior design diary. Let's talk about the clients I've been sourcing this week. I actually thought a fun episode could be me sourcing with you one time. So, maybe, even though the process is long, like to find 6 items, it takes me about an hour. But I could kind of show you how I get started and take you along on that journey. Could be boring, could be interesting. Anyway, but for right now, let's talk about my clients. So I'm just randomly, I've got all their questionnaires here. Um, I print them out, I put them in like a folder system, and there we go. These are recently completed clients. The first one was a woman in Brooklyn, and she was so busy. You think my life sounds busy? I mean, she has 2 kids in college that are going this way and that. Her husband's super busy. She works this major job. They moved into this really cool place in Brooklyn. It's got 2 different levels, which, if you know New York City, that's pretty baller. But they were kind of in survival mode. Like there were lots of boxes. The bottom level had flooded recently, which meant that there was further turmoil. And they needed a ton of storage, just a ton of storage. So I recommended some retail storage, a big entryway unit, the PAX unit from IKEA, and then a big TV unit with like a media stand in the middle, flanked by bookcases. And I will tell you what, those are back. Like my clients are needing those constantly, whereas they really didn't want them for so many years. They were quite out of vogue. And now that they're back, I'm just not having like good luck with a lot of selection that I like. But entertainment units are back. They're here to stay, and they certainly are helpful in places like New York City, where people need book storage, wire storage, game storage, as well as, the TV and things like that. So I've been sourcing so many entertainment units, including for this client. But she was critiquing the ones that I sourced because she said, Betsy, there's just not enough storage. So she basically wanted two fully enclosed bookcases with a fully enclosed TV stand. And then behind her was the entryway with a fully enclosed 8 foot long, 8 foot high entry unit. And I'm like, it is going to look like Manhattan mini storage in here. It is going to look like a storage locker and not like a gracious home. What are we going to do? And the problem with telling somebody in Manhattan or New York that they have a problem and that they're getting a lot of storage, and if they can't make this work, the problem is them, is that in any other place, whether it's Connecticut or Indiana or Mississippi, that would not be a lot of stuff. But in New York City, they have a lot of stuff. And maybe the problem is not storing the stuff, maybe the problem is just the stuff. But that's very hard to say to a client because I work with them for such a short time. So it was complicated, and we'll see what happens. But she was very sweet and very frazzled and wants all the changes to happen right away, but has no time to get them done. And I'm hoping she can rock this out because she has lots of entertaining over the summer. So my next client that I went to yesterday was in Larchmont, New York. And they were a couple who have a blended family. So she has 3 kids, he has 2 kids. They live in this like 70s split level, and it's small. It's small for their needs, and they're making it work because the amazing school system. But basically, they only hired me to do layouts. So I went there, I measured for the items they wanted to reuse, and then we sat down at the table and we laid out 3 different rooms, the family room, the living room, and the dining room. And in each room, which I'm very excited to say, the layouts were not intuitive, and we were able to create much better layouts, huge changes, just by moving the rectilinear dining table the other way so that it went in the direction of the room. We opened that space up so much. And I love the fact that with a client like this, all I'm doing is work on the spot. Then I just emailed them the floor plans afterwards, and I have significantly changed their life, and it did not take a lot of bandwidth on my part. I had to be super plugged in during my 2 hour visit. We even got to designing their kitchen because you can do so much in 2 hours. Not only did we totally design 3 rooms, but then I gave them like resale value opportunities throughout the space, including what they should do to upgrade their kitchen. So they got a ton of value in that 2 hours, and then I didn't come home with any homework. Win win. I guess my homework is fixing this freaking Zoom because it keeps refocusing every time I move. And I have tried so many ways to get this fixed. I have Googled. I didn't have this on my other computer with Zoom. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, okay, let's go to another client, shall we? Okay. You know what I tell you, people? I tell young designers, people in my academy, I say, do not work for friends. Don't work for friends because it's very hard to charge friends. And then there's very few boundaries. And every time you see that friend, you're talking design instead of talking about all the things that made you friends in the first place. And so I'm working for a friend, and she lives one town over, and I really like her, and she's so great. And when she first moved into her house, I had one of my designers work with her. Well, that designer has recently left. Paulina has recently left the company after 10 amazing years. She had her second child and it's just become too much, and I totally get it. But now, um, I'm taking over this client's project. And so I'm working with my friend, and she had a shopping list of over 90 items. And I was really nervous because she's so sweet, she's so kind, she's a little picky. It went very well, but she's going to talk it over with her husband and then get back to me as to what they think. And a lot of what I was finding for her were accessories. And you know what I like to do? Of course, I like to buy accessories with certain locations in mind. Like I'm getting the centerpiece bowl for the centerpiece of the table. I'm getting, this string of beads for inside the bowl on the centerpiece bowl. I'm getting a trio of vases for the sofa table. I'm getting two picture frames for the bookcase. But then what I love to do, and where the real magic comes in, is once I'm in the space, I kind of freestyle it and I see what goes where and what goes nicely and what kind of looks like it fits. And oftentimes, my initial plan for those accessories changes quite drastically during the styling. So I just like to have a lot of different options to work with, keeping in mind that she has so many shelves and so many surfaces. I will be using all these things. I'm just not convinced I'm going to be using them in the locations I've specified. So, what does that mean? Does that mean that I go back? Typically, with other clients, it probably means that I go back and style by the hour. Okay. But she's a friend. Like, just buy me a glass of wine and I'll style for you. Ugh. Styling is actually pretty hard, in my opinion, because I have to enter like a different mindset. So, as a new designer, I was very intimidated by styling, by accessorizing bookshelves, by finding pieces to like accent on a buffet. I was really excited by the large furniture pieces, and I hated finding accessories. And then I hated trying to make the accessories beautiful, either using what the clients have or totally sourcing and doing it all myself. It was so intimidating. Now, as I've grown long in the tooth as a designer, I actually really love styling. But the thing about styling is that nobody can talk to me. I need to be in my zone. I need to kind of like enter a different zone mentally, the same way I do when I'm designing. I can't have people talking to me. I have to put on Dateline NBC in the background and just like slip into my flow state. And when I'm styling, I need total silence. I need everybody to leave me alone, and I just need to do my work. That is work. It's harder for me than other things. So to not charge for it and just show up and style for a glass of wine, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But that's why we don't work for friends, people. That's why we don't work for friends. She's a gosh darn delight, and her house is beautiful, and I want to make it even more beautiful. But like, how do we charge? Oh, okay. I had this another client in Brooklyn. This client was so interesting. So she was an elementary school teacher. Her husband's an attorney. They live in like a row home in Brooklyn, or kind of a townhome kind of situation. They have the whole place, which is so fun. And when I walked in, it was super vibrant, like wallpaper, color, very loud and interesting. Then we're in their family room, which is the main kind of seating area for the entire space, the place where they're going to be entertaining. And when I'm looking at her inspo pics, everything is beige, cream, and white. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm like, all these inspiration pictures are beige, cream, and white, which is not unusual for my clients, but it's unusual for a client who has, an adjacent kitchen that's bright orange and lime green, and then wallpaper that's royal blue. So what's going on? And she said that the previous owners had designed everything else but this room. And she just kept everything. Like they'd bought the furniture, they'd kept the light fixtures. So it was like somebody else's personality in the rest of the house. And then this room she wanted to have totally neutral. And do you know why? So that way she could layer in accessories for every holiday. So she wanted like special accessories for 4th of July and she didn't want them to clash with the existing colors, special accessories for the holidays and for Halloween. And she doesn't want the existing colors in the room to be holding her decor back. And she really wants the decor to shine. Well, that was a first for me. I mean, that does seem like an elementary school teacher, though, doesn't it? Like getting her classroom ready for Halloween or something. So I got it. And I sort of delivered. But I mean, how odd is it to have one room that just feels completely different and yet is open to, because it was an open living dining sort of situation, this very vibrant, over the top kind of space. It was exciting, perplexing. Yeah. At the end of the day, I basically gave her just what she wanted, all neutrals, but I did add a little bit of sage because I couldn't help myself. I was like, I gotta give a little something. So that was very interesting. And one funny thing is they have young children, like elementary, middle school age children. And they're the house where everybody comes. Like after school, all the kids are there. She's an elementary school teacher, so she does not get stressed like I would, having 8 boys running up and down and all around. And then the moms came over to pick up the boys while I was there for a play date. And she and her friend were like hugging and curling on the chair. And she's like, this is what we do. I get together with my friends. We cuddle up together on the sofa. We're just like a pile of kittens and we just like snuggle. I thought that was so fun. That's so fun and aspirational. I have girlfriends I love. And sure, sometimes I think of us as a pile of kittens, but we never snuggle like that. She's like, I need every chair that you select for me, Betsy, to be a chair where multiple adults can snuggle. I was like, that is fun. That is interesting. When I hang out with my friends, I'm like, I really like you, but I do not want to touch you. I don't even want our elbows to touch. I want to hang out. I want to talk. I feel like a kitten, but I'm not. I'm not a kitten. All right, let's see what else I've gotten here. Oh my goodness. It's so funny flipping through these. Oh, okay. This was another client in Brooklyn. So this client moved to like a really small studio space and so small that like the width of a queen size bed is the entire length of her bedroom. And then she does have, it's kind of an alcove studio, so she does have a living room, but it's all very tight, even though it has huge ceilings, like 10-foot high ceilings, but everything, has a very small square footage. And not only did she want to sleep there, but she wants to work there. She works exclusively from home. She had a big dog. She wants to entertain guests. I mean, there was so much going on in this small space that we had to be so strategic. And her selections of furniture. So she was one of those clients that just hired me to do the layout. And again, I love that because no homework for me, right? And I can just leave them with all the measurements and be like, good luck finding these things because there's going to be quite a few challenging things. The more strategic and specific you get with your floor plan, sometimes it really limits you as to what you can find. Sometimes that's a good thing, right? When you're actually shopping, you won't have that many options and the answer will become clear. Sometimes it's a bad thing because you really are looking for a needle in a haystack. And she's got some needles in some haystacks, and I'm worried about her. I was like, Kara, well, I just gave word in. Kara, you better call me if you need some help sourcing because I think you might get stuck. More importantly, I want to see how everything turns out because we had selected fun wallpaper. We talked about it. We hadn't selected it, but in my mind, I've pre-selected the fun wallpaper. She was very eclectic and quirky, so she was willing to go there with like deep saturated navy paint colors. It was going to be so cool. And because of those high ceilings, big chandeliers, but she was on a tight budget. So good luck with that. Anyway, guys, this is what I'm working on. So much going on, but I'm really glad that I took time to stop and talk to you. And I'll be back next week after my reunion, hopefully with no stye in my eye, hopefully after giving successful and articulate speeches, hopefully. Trips down memory lane, and of course, being with you is always a trip as well. Until next week, bye. A big thanks to our producer Jeremy Young and to Aton and the Embassy for our theme music. And shout out to our parent company, Uploft Interior Design, your trusted source for expert interior design. Visit uploft.com to explore our services and book a consultation with one of our talented designers. If you're enjoying the Uploft Interior Design podcast, please support us by sharing the show with friends and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It's the best way to help new listeners find us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with more pro tips and pop culture dish.